WitchSpring R is a story-driven RPG that combines elements of collecting, simulation, crafting, and battling. If you enjoy watching reviews without having important aspects of the game spoiled for you, then you've come to the right place. So be sure to hit that subscribe button, as that is exactly how I handle my reviews. I don't like games being spoiled for me, so I'll do my absolute best to never spoil them for you. So almost all of the footage shown here will be from the first half of the game. In WitchSpring R, you'll play as a young witch named Pieberry, whose love for pie and strawberries will be immediately evident. If you're not sure what I mean by that, well, that's where her name comes from, and yes, I'm serious. Over the course of the game, you'll make new friends, some willingly, and some not so willingly. Pieberry will encounter many different people across many different lands as you scour the world seeking new materials, acquiring new equipment, learning new skills, and unraveling mysteries presented to Pieberry throughout her grand adventure. Over the course of her journey, Pieberry will be accompanied by Black Joe, her faithful servant that can assist her in a few different ways. Black Joe joins you very early on, and I wanted to highlight him specifically because his dialogue is often hilarious. He might just be my favorite sidekick in a video game ever. The story is a tale of highs and lows, twists and turns, so expect the unexpected as it keeps you engaged throughout the entirety of it. Anticipate WitchSpring R to make you feel a wide range of emotions as you unravel Pieberry's tale. Expect to relive childhood memories and also be hunted down mercilessly by soldiers that seek to eradicate any and all witches. The storytelling is really well done and kept me engaged throughout the entire game. I'm glad that it did because there is a ton of dialogue, and if the story wasn't so interesting and enjoyable, I think it would have massively hurt the overall experience for me. If you enjoy a good story in your games, you're in for an absolute treat here. So since there's a lot of spoilers, if I dive into it any further, all you really need to know is that I enjoyed the heck out of it, and you should definitely experience it for yourself. A crucial element of WitchSpring R is collecting and crafting. There's many different ways to collect materials for crafting and upgrading, but the main ways are by collecting items in the many different areas, with materials being denoted by a sparkling spot like Xenoblade Chronicles, or by checking your minimap for the bag icons. Also, defeating enemies will yield a different set of materials, with most enemies having exclusive drops not found elsewhere. Most games I've played with a heavy emphasis on collecting tend to feel grindy or tedious when you need rarer materials. I didn't feel that way here, as there are quick ways to get materials as well, and everything is tracked exceptionally well in your journal, so it's easy to find the location for the specific item you're seeking. Crafting is handled through the menus when you enter Pieberry's home. There's a bunch of different ways materials and crafting come into play here. The most notable ones are crafting consumables, new spells, combining spells, and even upgrading your equipment. As you play through, you'll periodically find new spellbooks and chests, which expand your recipe library. There's quite a bit of depth and complexity to the crafting and navigating these menus, but the game handles explaining all of this to you very well. Your home acts as your hub area where you can carry out a bunch of different tasks other than crafting. You can sleep, which allows you to fill your HP and MP, train when you have sufficient XP to do so, review your witch journal, and save your progress. Your home is your main hub area, so expect to return here often to engage with all of these different systems. Training Pieberry to improve her skills is handled a bit differently than what I'm used to. I'm used to simply earning XP in combat, and you level up. Here though, there's 3 different aspects of Pieberry's kit that can be upgraded separately. Combat is automatically leveled up by winning battles against enemies, although do be aware that battling the same enemy groups more than once will not yield more XP, but only more materials after the first victory. The other 2 are physical and magic. These are handled by training Pieberry by selecting from the various options. Each one has its own unique minigame, and perfecting these will earn you higher stat boosts. It's a nice way to reward player skill, but if you don't want to be bothered, you can also skip the minigames, but you will forego the extra stat boosts by doing so. When you reach new tiers in any of the 3 aspects of Pieberry's kit, you'll get even more stat boosts and learn new skills which you can perform in battle. There's an astounding amount of ways to improve Pieberry, and it might sound overwhelming and complicated, but I promise once you get in there and tinker with all of these for yourself, that it's not as bad as it probably sounds. None of the things I've talked about so far even include the permanent boosts you get by finding, crafting, or purchasing items that will each yield improvements as well. There's a bunch of these, and they reminded me a lot of the seeds that boost your stats in the Dragon Quest series. I think that's a pretty good overview of what you can expect from crafting and upgrading. Just know that, like I said, it's not as bad as it sounds, and all of these systems allow for you to truly build Pieberry in a way that suits your playstyle. The training you choose to do, the equipment you choose, the items you craft, all of these things contribute a great deal to allowing player customization. If you want to do a physical attack build, where you use swords and heavy armor as your priority, you can do that. You want to treat Pieberry like she's a black mage from Final Fantasy and focus on MP and magic attacks, you can do that too. Lots of options here to play how you want. Now that brings us to the combat. It's turn-based, where you'll see the turn order displayed at all times in the lower right corner. The order is handled like most other games and is based off the agility stat. Battles are often fun and unique as each area of the game introduces new enemies to keep it feeling interesting. You won't have multiple party members like Final Fantasy or Octopath Traveler, but you will be able to mind control certain enemies to get them to join you as a pet. Pets can then be summoned to aid you in battles, but are not capable of being knocked out or killed, so attacks from enemies will always just hit Pieberry. My biggest gripe with the way the pet system works is that you almost always need to summon them at the start of each battle. This gets to be incredibly tedious and is one of only a few missteps in this gem of a game. I understand that you have a certain amount of summoning points, but why can't I see my party in the menus and have battles begin with that setup? Why do I need to remember to summon my pets every single fight if I want to use more than one? And it often results in missed turns if the enemy goes first. These are all valid questions I had each and every time I had to do this. I would have loved for this to not be a thing, and while you get used to having to do it all the time, it's definitely a bit tedious. Other than my gripe with that part of combat, I really enjoyed it. Boss battles often feel challenging and satisfying to overcome, although there are some here and there which feel like a difficulty spike and took me multiple tries to overcome. That's with me playing on the normal difficulty setting, and be aware there are multiple options available, so if you want an easier or harder experience, they have you covered. All of the usual types of attacks are present here: physical, magic, special, items, defense, things of that nature. Strategy is a very important part of emerging victorious, and even on normal, battles often presented a hearty challenge, so don't expect to just breeze through without much thought. If you do happen to stumble into a fight, you aren't strong enough to win yet, this can create a really stupid situation. When you're defeated, there's no option to simply leave the fight and skip it. So in this situation, you can either load your last autosave, which from my experience resulted in lost progress as it doesn't autosave very often, or you can start the fight again and hope you live long enough to run away. I don't understand why the runaway option isn't available in the beginning, to be honest, and it creates some frustrating moments if you jump headfirst into a battle you aren't meant to tackle just yet. If you've played and enjoyed games before with turn-based combat, then this one is bound to feel familiar, but do be aware of the things I mentioned, as they can be a bit of a buzzkill at times. Outside of these core elements, your progression in WitchSpring R is handled in a way where you'll never be confused on your main objective. It's always clearly laid out for you and is easily accessible to review at the press of a button. There's plenty of room to deviate from this story path and explore on your own if you want to, but know that if you prefer to stick to the main task at hand, it will always be right in front of you, clear as day. And if you decide to play this, you should explore and deviate from the story path, because there's fun moments and rewards to be found that you would otherwise miss out on. Throughout the entirety of the game, you're treated to some charming and colorful visuals, which are complemented nicely by an excellent soundtrack. There is voice acting in the game, but not in English, only Japanese. Overall, WitchSpring R was an absolute blast to play through. I really enjoy turn-based RPGs, but this one somehow managed to exceed my expectations. It tells a story that's so incredibly charming and well written that I couldn't help but take my time reading all of the dialogue, but at the same time, it brings you places with its narrative that you probably don't expect. It played great on the Switch, with only a few instances of slowdown, but being a turn-based RPG, this was hardly an issue. The controls and all of the different systems you'll engage with are intuitive and well designed. There's simply no better way to wrap this up than to say you should play this for yourself. WitchSpring R is an absolute gem of a game that you can expect to spend somewhere between 25 to 30 joyous hours in its world. Mileage on this estimation obviously will vary, but I think you'll find that time to be well spent. Thank you for watching this review. I hope you enjoyed it. If you did, give the video a like, subscribe if you haven't already, and comment below. Let me know if you plan on picking this up, or if you have any questions, and I'll do my best to get back to you. But until next time, have a good one.